joining us for another edition of Agni Weekly Life. Today's show is brought to you by She Solidarity. She Solidarity is a movement that is aimed at promoting equal opportunities for all women and defending the rights of women. In this difficult time that we're going through with COVID-19, this evening's topic will focus on how we can find inspiration in the face of adversity. We're going to be discussing with a wonderful host, a guest that we have, and she's going to give us some tips and advice and walk us through how as women, we can strategize, we can move past the negativity of this time and focus on our energy on building capacity and preparing and thriving during these difficult times and beyond. So without taking much time, I am going to bring in our guest, Miss Linda, who will be explaining and discussing with us to help us to find inspiration during this time. Good afternoon, good evening, Linda. How are you doing? Hello, Linda, can you hear me? Hello?
Hello?
Linda, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes. So we have Ms. Linda Afin-Kwazi, who is the Managing Director of Kazin International. She's based in London and in Abidjan. Her firm specializes in annual conferences on infrastructure and public works, as well as capacity building and training and coaching on corporate social responsibility. So she is the perfect person to walk us through how we can prepare and strategize to thrive through COVID and beyond. So it's a pleasure having you with us, Linda. How are you doing today?
Thank you very much, Joyce. I hope you can hear me better now.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thanks for that introduction. Being the perfect person, it's kind of an overstatement, but thank you. Indeed, we have our company, Kaizen, which obviously specializes in the capacity building and the training across the UK and in Abidjan. The essence of our company is pretty much to find the inner position in everybody, to make sure that their talents are found, their talents are seen, and that people can obviously understand where they're heading to, and for those people to be more inclined in developing the firms that they're working for when they're in companies, and when they're outside, it's also for themselves to strive better once they know who they truly are, because our inner self is something that we always have to look for and make sure that this serves us right. So that's what we do to start, and this is in a sense of training and coaching. And the second point is on the CSR mission. I strongly believe that every firm needs to develop their strong CSR mission, because everything that we do needs to have a positive impact on everybody and a sustainable one. We accompany companies so that they develop the CSR mission, and we also have our own CSR mission and operation that we do. And the last one, as you said, is the infrastructure conferences that we organize across Africa, which is the link to make sure that, yes, we are a large continent, but we need to make sure that we find all our resources from one another across Africa. So thank you for having me tonight.
Thank you for joining us. So I'm going to start us off with a couple of questions, and then we are going to discuss it as we go along. So we chose the topic today that we have to find inspiration in the face of adversity. Right now, anywhere that you turn, whether it's on the news, social media, everything, the message really leads you to a place of self-pity, unfairness of life, and why me. I've had conversation with people in different countries, And as some countries are benefiting from government policies that are helping them to boost their income or their well-being, in other parts of the world, there is nothing like that. So we are all self-pitying one way or the other, and we are focused on what is going to happen and this unfairness in um, life. So as a coach and as someone who finds help people find their inner strength, what do you advise? What do you say to all of us who are thinking about the uncertainties and how we're going to deal with that?
Thank you, Joyce. Indeed, we are facing uncertain times, and we can see some governments helping their communities a little bit better than others. But my first word when I was speaking to a set of clients the other day, the first one was gratitude. It is a situation that we are facing, and it's all across the world. So, what do we have to do? We need to start by being grateful for who we are and for being alive. And we sometimes forget this element, which is the key element that will define what we do further on, because we tend to spend too much time in dwelling on what's not going right and forgetting that some people are already staying in hospital and feeling truly unwell. So the first word is gratitude. Just be grateful for who you are. Be grateful that you are there. You are able and you are alive. That's where it starts, because once you start thinking like this, the positivity automatically kicks in. I am alive. Therefore, what do I choose to do? Do I choose to dwell on the self pity and then question the fact that my government is not supporting me, for instance? Or do I just dwell on the fact that I've actually lost my job? Or do I dwell on the fact that I don't have any more money? What do we really do? Once we actually accept that we are able and we are there, we then have our inner self and our inner strength that kicks in, and we need to survive. And what do we do to survive? We become more creative. If I push it more across the woman aspect, we are extremely creative once we hit the wall, because at the end of this wall has to disappear. It is not there to stay. And unless you have that positivity in you, and you already are grateful for that, because it's always a key experience. This situation, the COVID-19 that we have, it's showing our limitation, which means that we never actually forecasted correctly what we were going to do, how we were going to do it better. So it's about learning from what we haven't done in the past, second of all, and then measuring how we're going to jump further. So let's imagine that COVID-19 as a major door, the very big door that is closed because obviously nothing happens. How do we break or knock that door, knock that wall? And it's about being creative. Do we go around it? Do we start digging down from below? What do we do? And the first element is converting what we're doing. For entrepreneurs, for example, which is the key point, because when we talk about finances that have been given by the government, is usually for entrepreneurs. What are the entrepreneurs going to do? This situation with the limitation that we have needs to allow us to convert our businesses in something that's sustainable. What did we not have when the COVID-19 happened? We didn't have infrastructure in place. We didn't have trained and competent members of health service for some countries. We didn't actually have the ability to make our business serve that situation. Quite a lot of people working in the textile environment were already just petrified that their businesses were closed, and did not really jump quickly on the bandwagon on creating face masks. And it took a while before everybody realized that actually, why do I sit down and cry immediately because the situation is kicking in? It took us for some countries about 2 to 3 weeks in before some of our friends realized that they had the ability to start building this. Some people will tell me, but I didn't have any finances. Yes, but nobody has those finances. It is a situation that is there. What do we do? Do we wake up every morning and say that we don't have the money, or do we just create that solidarity? And that's why I like the she solidarity word that we have here. We have to be part of that solidarity movement. And it's with that solidarity movement that we are developing what we have to develop. So if I don't have the material and then we have more solidarity with somebody else that was actually in the past had the material, we then learn to work together. And that is what this situation is creating. We see too many entrepreneurs working alone and thinking that when the space is utilized by somebody else, they become their competition and they shouldn't work together. And that's when we see that by working closely one another, if I don't have the piece of material or the piece of cloth, but I have everything to actually create the face mask, I'll have to go next to the person that has the material, and then we work together. And who can be our major clients? Our major clients then become the government, because nobody else has the funds other than the government. And we are helping them in that way, but we are also helping our businesses. So that's one of the elements. So to me, it's the gratefulness, it's the gratitude, it's not dwelling too much and having the ability to quickly convert. What can I really do? What is missing in that link? Do I really want to say I don't have enough finances, or do I just want to keep really crying on the fact that I don't have the money? And trust me, all of us entrepreneurs are facing the same situation, the same financial situation. There isn't any funds. But what did we do as women in the corner that where I am? We decided to just work together. We decided to create that solidarity, and we made ourselves known. Because by creating that solidarity element, we made ourselves known. We made people aware of what our capabilities are. We even offered our services, despite the fact that we didn't have those financial funds in order to continue. We still had ourselves, we had our voice, and we had our minds. So it was about being creative and quickly convert what we can do, because there's tons of things that we can do. But there's also the element of peace, because that quarantine keeps us at home with our family. We're at home, we are with the family that we don't really see often. The stress is kicking in. There's that, we are really frightened of tomorrow. If you have children and if your workplace is closing for the ones that are not entrepreneurs, you are scared and you don't really know what to do because you're thinking of the tomorrow. But I always say, before we start thinking of the tomorrow, how about we think of the today? How about thinking of the today, measuring what's really happening today? What did we do? And starting writing down what we did, assessing the situation appropriately. The COVID-19 is there and it's there to stay. Although people are opening their borders, opening businesses, it is there. So we need to start
Yeah.
living with it whilst it's there. And that situation is still at home. So I'm going to start thinking of what I do with it. I can see that there is a situation happening in X country. I can see that my next door neighbor needs X elements. Why don't I start doing this? I can see that the people are obviously just, their well-being, their mental well-being is going completely down. Why don't I just start talking to them? Hence the She Solidarity Live. It's for us to obviously share experiences and share advice. And it's all these movements that will allow us, obviously, to share those experiences and those advice to grow. But it's about finding our inner peace and understanding who we are. So the gratitude to me is the very, very first element, because we are able, the situation is there, it's a crisis, but it's not a crisis that is not gonna last. And it
So
is our resilience capacity.
thank you, Linda, for that intro and really putting the issues in perspective and telling us exactly about the character traits that we need to dig deep and find within ourselves to really build the resources and begin to move past the issue that is currently we are all facing, that is COVID-19, the adversity. So, in your conversation, in your statements, you mentioned about limitation, that COVID-19 has exposed the limitation that we have as a society, as entrepreneurs, as women living in various continents around the world. So, in your profession as an entrepreneur and as also a coach and a capacity builder, How do you advise people to use internal resources such as really strength, courage, and discipline in this time? Because we get so much, we get bombarded with a lot of negative news, a lot of issues, the statistics that is going that are telling us economies are shrinking, jobs are going away. So when we receive all this information, how do you advise us to use our inner strength to really look beyond that and focus on the task at hand?
So if I repeat the question, because I'm not, at some point it was breaking up. It was about using the inner strength in order to make sure that we overcome that situation, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. But first of all, we need to start by knowing ourselves. If I use the example of entrepreneurs that are that had to close their offices and start working on they had to start working. Joyce, are you there? Joyce?
Hello? Yes.
Okay, you're back. So I lost you for a minute. So if I have to start with the entrepreneurs that had to close their offices and start working on the using the working from home, which is not a key element that we used to have across our continent because we always work in offices. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So this is already the first element. The head of that company then becomes the person that needs to hold on to the company and hold on to the people. So that inner strength will allow us to motivate ourselves to start, because it starts with that motivation. It starts with waking up in the morning at the same time every single day for to make sure that we keep pushing our stuff, pushing ourselves, and pushing all our clients. Because let's not forget our clients. Our clients also need our support. So whilst we are thinking that we don't, everything is going down the drain, our clients need us to obviously stay closer to them and also push them. So that inner strength gives us that motivation that we need. And it also allows us to project ourselves in the future. You cannot want to be an entrepreneur and then once we have one element of adversity wants to close everything down, because we are going to face that every step of the way. And that resilience is what makes our business even more enjoyable and makes it more helpful to the people that we're providing it to. And that motivation is the first one. Determination needs to be the second. And by looking ahead as to where we want to go, we have more capacity to build onto that strength and start drafting. For the Christian, for example, if I use the example, whenever we go to church, we are told, if you think of something, write it down. Well, I keep saying the same thing for every entrepreneurs. If an idea crops your mind, write it down. If a suggestion crops your mind, write it down. And that inner strength needs to be your, it needs to be your wall, it needs to be your shield, it needs to be your everything, because it will allow you to wake up every morning and to want to do it again, no matter how hard it is. And it's that determination and motivation that will obviously automatically go on to the perseverance. Those three key elements will allow us to keep going. For the working from home situation, let's use examples. Some of that of our staff, if I use even my staff, we had to train them obviously working from home, because it's not an element that was obviously pushed all the time in society. So you need to tell them that the time is still the same. You need to wake up at the same time. You need to be connected at the same time, and you still need to do the same actual job that you were doing, just that we'll do a video conference at the end of the day to make sure that the job has been done. But if we don't build on our inner strength to push them, something that is not known, what do? You tend to push it aside. You tend not to put too much importance onto it. And that's when that inner strength allow you to push your stuff. Because without it, you cannot motivate your team. And now is the key element and the key time to motivate your staff by being present, by showing them that you actually care, by showing your clients that you also care, and by showing yourself that you need to carry on. There are two choices, I believe. If you do not want to face adversity, And if you do not want to have to fight and be more resilient, it is hard to actually just start the entrepreneurship road, because that is what it's made of. It's made of challenges, it's made of roads filled with stones every single time. And it's the most resilient and the most determined that stay alive. And that determination is derived from our inner strength. Instead of obviously just seeing the adversity, it's seeing it as an opportunity and converting it immediately onto what will define us in the future. So in the COVID-19, what is our opportunity? It's measuring our limitation for the future. So from now on, we need to be able to assess our companies and assess ourselves into what may happen in the future, even if it hasn't happened yet. And that COVID-19 has showed us that. That's the first one. The second one, it's also showing us that financially speaking, we are not well equipped. We are not well equipped, and we don't have entities that are there to help us. So what exactly are we going to do as entrepreneurs to make sure that we are there for one another? That financial limitation needs to stop, because that's the key element that we always complain about. What are we going to do? Are we not going to start creating probably a federation whereby we will probably just have some collection of some deposit every month that will be, who knows, that will be put into a financial management or a fund management in an area whereby entrepreneurs can benefit from these funds in the future? Isn't it a time for us to think together? Isn't it a time for entrepreneurs all across to start thinking as to, okay, what do we need to do to stop asking banks for money since the money is not coming? Amongst ourselves, what can we do? Because this is a limitation that we have.
So, and you highlight the key points. How do we connect with each other? Our movement is She Solidarity, sister to sister assistance, not only in the finances, but also in knowledge sharing, emotional support, and just getting together as women and helping to bring each other up. So when we look at the external factors in terms of being an entrepreneur, being around your business area, the business environment, the sector that you are in, and the processes that you're going through. And this differs for all of us women from country to country. So how do we find each other and provide that support? What are some of the mechanisms that we can use as women to find each other? And how do we prepare our minds not to only look at our own personal adversity, but to understand that there are others out there. And when we actually stick together and come together, we are actually able to create more and thrive than being individually as an island.
It's a great question, actually, Joyce, because we see that the men's club tend to work better than the women's club. And it's not because they all share the same outfits by wearing a suit and a tie, and we sometimes wear dresses when another one will wear skirt. It's not all about that. You're right, and that's what we push
Yeah.
into the inner strength. We need to stop seeing each woman as a competition. We need to start seeing each woman as one that wants to push and to keep growing and get better. And in the question where you spoke about how do we find each other, how do we obviously just get to know one another, it's by groups like ADNE, it's by groups like African Leadership Network Women, it's by the Lioness Women Network. It's making sure that we connect onto all the women's group and stop thinking that these groups are just going to be a barrier to our development. That's the first part. The second is also to make sure that we share our worries. We don't do that at all because we are so scared of judgment.
Mhm.
Our environment just spend the time judging us, and that judgment, that fear of being judged, prevents us from sharing our issues. And this is the second thing that should definitely be taken off. If we are part of a group, if we are part of a network, if we are part of a movement of women, we need to be able to share our issues. And our value and our first value needs to be being there for one another and being really there for one another. I remember having issues, and we were talking about financial issues and financial issues with female colleagues or female entrepreneurs, where I've explained that obviously, I have an issue. Please let me have some times, and I will obviously sort this issue at some time. But you realize that your own female counterpart will be the one completely dismantling you emotionally, whereby not only you already have the financial issue, but then your emotions are all over the place. So we need to support one another. So if something like that happened, it is never going to be because we want to obviously push the other person's business down. It's because there is an issue. So we need to be more understanding towards one another. Fourth of it all is tolerance. We are not tolerant. We need to be more tolerant amongst one another. And this is showing us, the COVID-19 is showing us that we can. Most countries that actually just dealt better with that situation were countries led by women.
Yes.
So once we lead and once we actually know what we have inside of us, which is tolerance and love and care, we actually excel. And that's what we need to learn to do together. We really need to lend our hands to the other person and the other female and lend it correctly. Some women do it, some women are still barrier for others. I mean, an example, I'm in a network of women, and the idea is for us to promote all the female. And I can see that there is a point about people not being literate and how do we cope with, how do we assist them. And some of these women are obviously not literate. They're in agriculture and other sectors. And the point was obviously to push them and write down all their worries in something that would be acceptable so we can present it to the decision makers that obviously are men still nowadays. But the query that I raised, the response that I had from the female were that I am not I am not the head of that group. Therefore, I cannot ask any questions.
Mm-hmm.
And how do I overcome that? Is by pushing. So I just took some of them on the
Yes.
side and then took some of the worries and made it general. Made it general because I knew that those were the general issues that we're all facing. And this is what I'm going to present. And this is not going to stop me from fighting to make sure that all the women in that network get what we really are supposed to be getting. So you see those small little adversities that we get amongst ourselves can put it onto a corner where we don't want to do it. But it takes us back to the determination that I was mentioning earlier. That inner strength that we actually just develop gives us that determination and that desire to persevere. And then we go further and further. By tolerance, I mean understanding that not everybody is going to understand the situation and the point as us. We are not the same, and we are not meant to be the same. Otherwise, the world would be completely boring, and that's not the plan of God. So, if we are not the same, it's accepting our differences and learning from those differences. So, if you're talking to someone that is not literate, it's making sure that you actually communicate with a language that she would also understand because you're part of the same network. No matter being literate or not literate, you still have the same needs. This is like universal rule to me. We have the same rules. We need to excel, we need to succeed. To me, that is our rule. Therefore, whatever is good for me will automatically be good for you. And it's making sure that my language is appealing and you understand as well where I'm coming from and what I mean, so that we keep pushing and our battle is known and our battle is taken seriously. There is also an element where, as women, when we are in a situation of authorities, for example, and if we have to discuss an important matter with someone from, let's use the example of a government, some women
Uh-huh.
don't really know how to negotiate because obviously they don't really know how to position their needs. And it becomes like an eloge. We just keep saying thank you to the authorities. We just keep on blessing them without even having positioned what we need. And when we see a situation like this, it's about finding the head of that group and making sure that we train them and equip them so that they can present their needs. And that's what my role is. And that's what I do. And that's what I did for a group of women last week, a group of other women a couple of weeks ago. And it's assisting them in their needs in the most appropriate manner instead of always going into a room and negotiating in a way whereby it feels like we are literally, I use the word lightly, uh, begging when we shouldn't be. We shouldn't be. Therefore, it's important to obviously make sure that we as women push one another to the top. If there's an empty seat for other women that sit in boards, if there's an empty seat, the woman that sits in that same board should not let that seat empty. She should make sure that another woman gets that seat. And how does she do that? It's by communicating the information to all the women across her, all the women that are in the network, and all the women that she may even know. And that's how we build onto that trust, we build onto that confidence, and we become more of a solid network of women. For me, it's a woman that pushed me to do what I'm doing today. And it's a woman that keeps pushing me and gives me the advice that I need to ensure that the business keeps going. Despite the adversity, and God knows how many days, how many adversities I've faced. God only knows, they're still there. But it's about pushing. It's about pushing in an intelligent manner, sharing, communicating, and converting. And that inner strength, I go back onto it, is the power that we need to start converting what we have as talent inside of us. You may start making yogurt at home, and everybody tells you that it's excellent, and you're in a COVID-19 situation, but you're making the yogurt at home. 20 people come and they eat and they say it's very nice. What are you going to do? You've lost your job. Are you not going to
Yes.
try and make that yogurt for everybody else and start selling it? Or are you going to consider that as a very little job that you cannot do, but you're just making the yogurt at home for your family? No, you're going to start selling. And by conversion, that's what I mean. That is the talent that clearly you do have. And it had to be that COVID-19 situation that made people discover that you could do that. Even yourself, you
Exactly.
discovered that you could do that. You may find that you're excellent at reading, and you may start creating a book club.
Yeah.
It comes just like this because you're at home and you start reading to your kids, you start reading to your husband, and eventually, when all these sees, even during it, you start creating these books club. And what is the main point that we always say about us African? That we don't want to read.
Uh-huh.
So imagine that COVID-19 situation showed you that you could do that. By expanding onto that book club, you expand onto something else. And then you may then become the person that teaches people to understand what they read and teaches people through reading how to even get better at something that they want to do. So it's not always about the excess of money that we don't have that we need to worry about, but it's about the small elements that are around us. And to me, this COVID-19 situation made us focus more on the littlest things that we had. And that's why I go back onto the first word that I say, it's the gratitude and
Yes.
appreciation.
So you touched on something that afflicts all of us women, and especially women coming from cultures that are quote unquote male dominated, and then also in that part of the world in Africa, we see a lot of that. So in working with organizations, um, how do you see the role of organizations in really being deliberate and intentional about promoting and building capacity for women? So my one of my mentors told me that in the corporate world, you need a sponsor to speak on your behalf to really push your agenda forward. Otherwise, you get lost in the sea of all the different competing agendas. Sometimes, in the process of finding that sponsor, you just need to be your own advocate until you find that person. And it can be terrifying to try to go against or to go and push something that you yourself you were not too confident. So how do we build that confidence, and how does it become a two-way street so that organization governments becomes intentional about promoting the rights, promoting women, and really recognizing the talents that women brings to the table.
You see, earlier on, I was telling you it's about women being advocates for other women, isn't it? It's about women making sure that the seat is never going to be empty. And if the seat is empty, fill it up with another woman. It's about women seeing themselves in any other women. But first of all, that confidence is about, again, that inner strength. Who are you truly? That
Yeah.
is the first question. Who are you? And that is the question that we should always be asking ourselves. Who am I? What is my real purpose? And what are my desire? So those three questions are already just going to be coming into processes. And then after that, you ask yourself, okay, what can I really do? What do I have? Even with your hands, what can I do with my hands? How can I think? How should I think? How should my thinking be positioned? What do I do with my emotions? How do I utilize my emotion in the working, corporate world? For Black women, let's use the word, it's always said that whenever we are being assertive, we are being aggressive.
Uh-huh.
But being assertive is being assertive and off. There's no point of being aggressive. So it's about not letting the entire environment and the entire world judge and make us believe that we are something that we are not. And that confidence comes with answering that question about who you truly are and what are your true desires and what is your purpose. When you're in your corporate world, you go there with objectives and ambition. You are not there to obviously emulate what somebody else does. You are there because you have your own talent, your own merit, and it's for you to start pushing those own talents and own merits and not let the environment push you into a different direction. You should make sure that you yourself have your direction and you stick to that. Our environment needs to be considered in everything that we do, but it shouldn't be the guides of who we are. We should be working and we should be doing what we have to do in the environment, and the environment needs, as life tells us, it needs to tolerate us. As harsh as this may sound, the environment shouldn't actually dictate who you're going to become. The environment should obviously learn to know you because you're imposing yourself by your merits, by your talents, by your attitudes, by the use of your emotion, and by all those combinations, and especially the way you're obviously communicating with everybody. But you need to start asking yourself those real questions. Who am I? Do I really want to please everybody else? Or do I want to stick to the agenda that I gave myself because I'm there knowing that I can do what I'm there for? And the environment should never really push us to do anything different. And that's where gradually this confidence grow. After that, we start communicating and we then give our opinion. Our opinion will never really be this. Our opinion doesn't even have to be the most approved one. It's our opinion and it needs to be valued. The same way we will value others' opinion, our opinion needs to be valued. And we shouldn't actually be worried because our opinion hasn't been approved by everybody else or by the majority. The most part of it all is that we gave that opinion. We have one, we're sharing it. And it's by starting giving our opinion, discussing during meetings, raising our hands when it needs to be raised, instead of keeping the answer to ourselves when we know that we have it. That's when we make sure that our environment accepts us. And then that confidence grows because people then know that we are there because we have merits. We are there because we know what to do. And we are there because we also have that knowledge. So it's about making sure that we have that knowledge. And that's why to me the capacity building is a key element into having that confidence, that self-confidence. It's in the knowledge. You need to learn about who you truly are, and you need to learn about what you truly want to do, and you need to learn how you're going to make sure that your environment understands, hears you, and lives with you. But make sure that nobody dictates what you're going to do. How often do we see women not applying for board roles because they believe that they just women, they're probably going to be taken as PA, they're going to be taken as HR manager, but they're not going to be taken as financial director, engineer, or the head of the mine. Why? It's because we don't apply. We
Exactly.
just don't apply. We've already allowed our minds to tell us that we cannot apply because we will not be chosen. Who told us that we will never be chosen? Nobody,
Yeah.
because we haven't even applied. If I haven't communicated my view, or if I haven't been speaking with you simply because you're not smiling, it doesn't actually mean that you do not want to talk to me. So it's
Exactly.
that perception that we need to remove from everything that we're doing, and it will allow us to grow. People may not approve, people may not appreciate us, people may not actually agree with what we're saying. But to me, it's important not to and become personal. It's important to disagree, yes, raise your opinion as to why you disagree, but it's not to judge. That is not our roles. That is not what we are here for. It's about pushing and pushing, pushing, pushing. And we need to make sure that we do. And I can see your comment about the married woman, which is so good. I did a training once about, it was a training about how women can develop into a corporate world. And I had a comment as to, but you're not even married. What would you know about what married women are going through?
Mm.
And that comment came from another woman.
Oh.
So you see, those are the key, and those are the small adversities that we may be facing every single day. But what did I do? That didn't really phase me. Yes,
Mhm.
I acknowledge that I am not married. I may not know what you're going through, like exactly, but whilst talking to you, you've already displayed what I can bring you in order for you to be better. And that's all I want to do. So the judgment that us African women tend to do towards one another is one that obviously prevents us from doing what we should be doing, which is succeed and excel, understand and be tolerant, and tolerate one another and work together. Make sure that we push one another to the top. That's all we need to do. If we do not push one another to the top, nobody else will ever push us to the top.
So I'm going to, hello, Linda.
Yes, can
So
you hear
I'm
me?
going to read, yes, I'm going to read some of the questions that we've had so that you can answer them. There is a question from Rich, and he's asking that in your opinion and working across Africa, which countries do you think has the most positive environment for women based on women helping women or men not being a hindrance to women? The
Rwa-
example that we
Rwanda.
can. Ah.
Rwanda was a fantastic place to work. Rwanda was a place where the measures were positioned, the discipline exists, and women were willing to support one another. We did organize a conference across Kigali, and the women, the partners that we had were women. The
Yeah.
partners that we had to obviously create the conference were women. And the women were willing to support one another. And they were willing to obviously
Hello, Linda. Hello.
that we were doing. They were able
Uh-huh.
to obviously just be present and allow me and my team to know the way because it's an unknown country. They were willing to help. And this
Mm.
again displayed that beauty into the desire to grow and to do what we have to do. Senegal as well is the second one, where my actual great friend and mentor is actually from Senegal, and obviously the push that I got was another excellent push. So those two countries were really great elements, and there were good experiences where women stuck by one another and didn't sleep until the job was done.
Yeah.
This was beautiful. This was truly beautiful because it gave you hope again. It gives you chills because I remember we sat on the floor in rooms trying to measure, trying to organize our activities, and they were on the floor with me.
Mm-hmm. So, women who are listening and men who are listening, it's possible. It's being
Yes.
done somewhere, and we can all look to that. There is another question that asks about, says that you speak about improving oneself. And the person asks about a business structure that like Keretsusu, which is a Japanese business model where different people come together and then forms single different businesses come together and then ends up forming a bigger corporation. So he's asking that does this structures exist in Africa and can such structures with the help of banks, uh, GFIs help to really create those structures so that women businesses are not so vulnerable to the ups and downs of the economy or adversities, but it can be all tied together. Do you see women on the continent coming together as business owners to form something like that?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Do you know you're saying it now, and it's a great point because I'm currently working on something similar, and because I realize that it's only by being together that we strive. Being alone will
Yeah.
never work. Collaboration is only the key element. Having a horizontal way of working always makes us strive, and it's important for us to create our network and to trust that network.
Mhm.
We're just part of our network.
Hello?
Sure, we create.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes. I think we've lost Linda for a second, and Linda is joining us from Abidjan in Ivory Coast, and we hope that she can rejoin us. Linda, can you hear me?
Lost you.
Hello?
Oh, hi. I
Can
can hear you now.
Yes. Okay. So continue, please.
Sorry, I didn't even hear what you said before.
Oh no, continue on what you were saying. We those are breaking the line for a little bit, so finish
Oh,
your
yes.
thoughts.
Yes, it was about obviously creating a group of female entrepreneurs and female being in the informal sector, in the formal sector, in any sector, making sure that it becomes more of a key group for women entrepreneur as a whole that will collaborate together and that would work together and make sure that all the women are pushed to the top and are obviously just pulling from one another, getting services from others, from one another, and keep striving, keep excelling. And once we do that, we become a powerful force to be reckoned with. And we become a group of people that is taken seriously. And the mistake that we too often make is that whenever we have our conversation, we only invite women. We shouldn't only invite women because we already know what we need. I have a great friend that is obviously she's got a mentoring school or a mentoring setup, a mentoring school actually for boys, but only because she's trying to push women to the top.
Hmm.
So we always make sure that the men and the boys are going to be part of our conversation because they're the decision makers today. And we are trying to change this, but we will only change it if we make sure that they collaborate with us. And that's what I'm trying to do for women.
Wonderful. There is actually a question that touches on what you just said. It's a question asks that how can women give assistance to other women when only men controls all the seats? And how do women get the spare seats? So that goes into what you started in terms of having men as partners. So how do we form this partnership so that men doesn't feel like we're trying to get rid of them or push them out of the way and take over, but to really work together as partners and to promote the well-being of women and provide the seats that are for women as well.
Wearing trousers to look like men in order for us to be heard. We need to make sure that our talent is seen. What we know how to do, we need to make sure that we push ourselves. Often we make the mistake because we go in and we become excessively assertive. Ourselves. Women are already, we have a very high emotional intelligence. And it's that emotional intelligence that needs to be utilized appropriately by being ourselves into those boardrooms, into those corporate worlds. We need to remain who we are. If we want to wear a skirt, we wear a skirt. If we want to wear our lipstick, we wear our lipstick. We do not beg. We do not actually offer ourselves to any men, but we show our talents. We tell them what we know, and we make sure that our knowledge is perceived, even if it's being in small groups, even if it's being through. I remember, let me just even use an example to side tie. When I was at the bank, in order for people to understand what I could do, I started training the newcomers. I also once was part of the CSR mission that was happening in the bank, so that people would see my talents. So this was about working in a strategic manner to make sure that people will see me. And what did I do? I was working hard. I was pushing everybody else. I'm training people. If I'm capable of training, it means that I know something.
Exactly.
I'm making sure that people are comforted. Whenever there's an issue, I try and be part of that issue and understand. If everybody is going to the pub, for example, on a Friday, I don't have to go every Friday of the week because I have a life, I have family. But I make sure that once in a while I go. Why? Because I want to be part of that team. That's all being part of a team. It's not by saying I'm a married woman, I need to go home at 7. It's by making sure that we communicate correctly with our partners, with our husbands, but we also are
Yeah.
part of the team. And we do not try to be the people. We show the people who we are and what we have. And we shouldn't be scared of losing. We shouldn't even be scared of falling down. We shouldn't even be scared. Those situations happened. And once they
Yeah.
happen, is what do we learn from those situations that matters? Because people will criticize us 3 days, 4 days. After that, yes, everybody else will jump on the bandwagon because people are so quick on to criticizing. But once it's done, they will move on to something else. But our strength will build us, will make us grow, will make us learn from what we had, and then our knowledge, our talent will be perceived by the rest of the world. When I started, I remember that not a lot of people trusted me. I remember that quite a lot of people were even laughing at what I was saying.
Yeah.
What is she talking about? But what did I do? I just kept on training myself. I had a lot of financial issues, even up to date. But what did I do? I kept on working. I kept on delivering. And I kept on making sure that I was trained and heavily trained, and that everything that I would do as far as work was concerned would be absolutely spot on. And I had a great mentor who was a female, and that pushed me.
Well, we also have a question, and the question is asking that's right about self-limiting beliefs that are key to women, barriers to women's success. But how does one even identify self-limiting beliefs? How do we even become aware that how should what I'm saying, the way I'm carrying myself? How do you even come to that awareness of, oh, my behavior is actually, or my character, the way I do things, it's actually being a barrier into succeeding? How do we identify those things on our own before we even get the feedback externally?
Do you remember earlier on I was telling you about asking ourselves the question about who we are, what are our
Yes.
true desires? And every single day when you go to work, I mean, every day when you wake up, there's a purpose whilst you're awake and there's something that you need to do. And it's about asking yourself about what am I going to do today? Who am I? What are my true desire? And how should my day be? And it's by paying attention. Honestly, we need to pay attention to one another. And sometimes we hear this value and we think that they're redundant, but those values about respect, and those values about acknowledging others, and those values about communicating and listening. I guarantee you, if you work in a corporate world, for example, and you listen to your environment, You will hear when you've done something that is not right, because they will tell you that in a subtle manner, but they will still make sure that you know. But it's because very too often we do not listen. So if we listened well, we would hear that message. And the other most important part is by paying attention into what we're doing. When we do something yourself, when you communicate to someone, you should be able to ask yourself, did I actually ask the right question? Did I talk to her in the right manner? Was I abrupt in this? And every time I keep on saying to my client, every time you ask yourself a question and your answer is slightly mitigated, therefore you should ask the person that you were talking to, because there's surely something that you've done. If you
Yeah.
can answer yourself a question by a yes and a no, then there's nothing wrong. But once your answer is, I'm not sure, should I, did I? Then you should actually question yourself a bit further, and then talk to the person that you spend time with, and try and understand if everything was okay. But again, it's because we are mortified about the what the environment will say about us. Therefore, very little time we go back and try and make amends, or try and review what we did during the day, to make sure that if there's something that we did, we could obviously correct it. And those are very simple tips, but that's what we should be doing. Pay attention to somebody else when you go to work. Listen, and it's very hard. We say it, but I'm sure when you sit at work every day and you have your brain running into a lot of things that you wish to do, how you're going to do, you don't actually listen to somebody talking to you. And you only hear one point, which is the points that you're interested by, and you forget about the rest. And that's how our brain is actually made. And when I say listen, we really need to listen. We really need to listen, and we really need to obviously just eat up the words that the person is giving us, and then assessing them in a more appropriate manner. Then we will be able to see if we've done something wrong, if we need to review it, and if we need to do something different. The other one is, if the question that you ask yourself, have I done something right or wrong, is not a full yes or a full no, then there's an issue.
So solidarity is all about empowerment. And we have talked a lot about skills and techniques and ways that we women can empower ourselves, and not only ourselves, but bring other women along as we continue to grow and look for opportunities to grow and to really bring women alongside, so that the next seat that becomes available is not filled by a man. If a man qualifies, great, but also if there is a woman who qualifies, that we would not be intimidated by another woman coming in, or we will not be begrudged by that, but we will be more open and become more aware that I need to bring in another woman, because that's the way that we build the capacity. That's the way that we form that sister support system. So this group, admin, is diaspora, and then we're trying to connect also with continental Africa. So how do we work on our relationship? I'm originally from Ghana. Sometimes when you go home and you're having conversations, people tend to say things like, "Oh, people who are in the diaspora tends to look down on people who are at home, or because they have traveled abroad," and all those conversations. So how do we get past those things and see and actually open up a genuine conversation, so that we are listening to what we're saying to each other, but we are not judging each other because you've lived in Europe or North America or something, and somebody else is living in Ghana or
I always, I always laugh at this question, because I was even talking about that a few weeks ago. Uh, we must admit that us people being in the diaspora or going home, sometimes we do not actually realize that how the world has also changed in our country, in our native countries. It has actually evolved. It has changed. Peoples have changed, mentalities have changed. And we shouldn't actually come by always comparing. We make too often that mistake. If I lived in the States and I go back to Abidjan, I would expect everything in Abidjan to be like the States. But it's Abidjan, it is not the States. It is not going to be the same. I lived there, I had this opportunity. What did I learn and what am I bringing to the people that I'm meeting now? If I would like it to look like the States, what am I going to build in as a very first stone to make sure that it looks like the States in the future? What is my contribution going to be? That is how we need to start thinking instead of thinking that we come with all the answers to the questions of our countries and they need to be answered like now and they need to work. We need to be humble when we come back. This question is so dear to me because when I first came to Abidjan, I came with a very big head, thinking that I had the answer to everything. Joyce, it was so funny. I thought that I lived in the United Kingdom. What are the people talking to me about? I know everything. They should therefore listen to what I say instead of listening to anything else. Completely forgetting that there are some amazing talents in our countries, on our continent, and thinking that I had the answer to everything. And obviously, I was knocked hard. I didn't have any friends. Everybody was thinking that I was absolutely rude. And then I realized that humility is the key to the development. And then I obviously just humbled myself and realized that I was coming home. I'm not coming into a strange nation or anything else. I'm coming home and I wish my home to be the best. And I wish my continent to be the best. I want to go to Senegal. I want to go to Rwanda. I want to go to Kenya. I want to go to Burundi and see it succeed and see that everything is set up in place and the talents are everywhere. Therefore, I bring the contribution that I've learned, the experience that I had, and then I share it with the people. And that's why I actually created this company. Really, this question is really dear to me because that's what us in the diaspora, that's what we need to do. We also talk about the lack of funding for entrepreneurs. What are we going to do, us in the diaspora, to ensure that our entrepreneurs, colleagues on the ground, benefit from some funds that we can potentially create? Why don't we create something? We are in the diaspora. We have had an opportunity that somebody else didn't have. What are we going to do? And it's about thinking strategically. It's about converting. It's about not seeing adversity as something that is obviously phasing us and not going to make us grow, but it's converting, converting, converting. So, yes, indeed.
And you mentioned one thing, and this is uh, in terms of going home. So there's been a lot of conversations and questions about, how do we develop within the culture that we find ourselves. And a lot of times people tend to think that African cultures are backward, archaic. But I always tell people that that is not true. You are in Ghana. And a lot of the character traits and things that has helped me in my own development, I learned growing up in Ghana and not when I moved to the United States. So how do we embrace the cultures that we come from and still understand how the cultures could also become a barrier to us? Because, for instance, the culture of giving respect to our elderly, which is very important. But okay, how do we disagree with our elders without also coming across as being rude or being challenging authority? How do we grow and develop with embracing our culture and still not being disrespectful?
Exactly. Look, I believe that whenever we have the opportunity to go abroad, it's not for us to forget who we are and it's not for us to forget our culture. Our culture defines us. Oh, and I strongly believe in that. Our culture, our tradition, it defines us. And whenever we go abroad, we need to obviously integrate. And by integrating, we learn about other cultures. It doesn't mean that we should forget about our own. It means that we blend into the other culture to ensure that we integrate the population that we obviously are living now, but we make sure that our culture as well is known. So if I live when I was in the UK and I go to someone's house and I eat the porridge in the morning for breakfast, or even if I have to eat chicken tikka masala, I'll make sure when they come to my house, they eat my fufu. I'll make sure that they hear me speaking and know what I'm supposed to do, because it is my culture, it is who I am. And you
Yeah.
either accept me for who I am or you don't. But I will not change my culture simply because I would like you to accept me. And that it's by doing this that we create that superiority element that we see a lot, because we are not actually proud of who we are. Yes, there are some parts in our culture that are not actually terrible. Some of our elements, obviously, sometimes put us a bit backwards. Yes, but we are in a new world. How do we actually ensure that we use our culture to our advantage to make sure that we progress and that people know about us as well? So please, let's not forget our culture. Let's embrace and love our culture and make everybody else enjoy and love our culture. Because I don't see anybody else when we go to the country pushing their culture to adopt ours. They ask us to blend into it. So we have to blend into it. And the beauty is, for someone like me who is a French speaker, having lived in the UK, now I speak English like someone who is in the UK. So I have adopted their culture without forgetting who I am. When I come back home, I actually integrate my home because it is my home. And I am happy to show the people of my country that it is possible for us, because it gives us two elements, two culture that we know. And we then become completely versatile and we can cope with any sort of adversity that will hit us. Let's believe in ourselves. There's so much that we can do.
So thank you so much, Linda. It has been a fantastic conversation. One that is informative, and all the people who joined us from different parts of the world. The goal of the She Solidarity conversation is to really bring on board a lot of women in different capacities to have conversations about issues that really prevent our well-being, prevent our successes, and create an environment and atmosphere so that we can provide that sister-to-sister support. So in the course of the week, anytime, please feel free to go to the African Diaspora Network in Europe Facebook page, send us a message, leave comments for the show. If there is a topic that is pressing to you that you want to hear about it, do share, and we will try to bring someone with that expertise and background on the show. I think that our next show, which is going to be 2 weeks from now, we're still going to have the conversations around COVID, because that is something that we are facing right now, and we want to be able to have this conversation and share it with different women organizations and women, especially in Africa, so that we come out of this stronger and utilize all the tools that you're telling us, looking within, coming together, really time to build collaborations and partnerships to solidify and everything that we are doing. We have to use the time wisely to think individually about what we can do, as Linda has shared with us, build that capacity. That book that you have been looking to read for so long, go ahead and spend the time and read that book. The writing that you want to do that you never had the time. This is the time that we can take to do some of these things. Strategize, put things on paper so that you can see it, and then find an accountability body so that they can hold you accountable. That you said in COVID time that you're going to launch X, Y, and Z. We are 3 months past it, 1 year past it. What happened to those ideas and thoughts? So thank you so much, Linda, for spending your evening with us. I know it's 7:10 in Ivory Coast.
Pleasure.
So we really enjoy having you, and we look forward to really working with you and all that you're doing, and also bringing you into the She Solidarity family to continue to provide capacity building for our women. Thank you all who posted questions. I hope your questions were answered. And if your questions were not answered, if you have any follow-up, please drop it in the comment section on the ADN Network Facebook page, and we will answer it. Thank you all. Have a good weekend, and we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. Bye.
Thank you so much, Joyce. You take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.